Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video I'm going to talk about my May reading wrap up. May was an amazing reading month for me. The first 4 months of the year were quite hectic and busy. I was able to get back into my routine in May only, and I should say that after getting back into my routine, I'm able to feel myself being even more free and being able to do more stuff than I usually do, or it feels so because of the past 4 months for me. I managed reading a total of 20 books. I was not able to believe it when I sat down to write the books for this wrap up. There are a total of 11 physical books and 9 audiobooks in this wrap up, and 6 of the 9 audiobooks belong to one series itself. That series is also an Indian series and it is quite amazing if you ask me. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. As usual, I'm starting with the physical books. So the first one which I finished reading in May as a physical book is a non-fiction book, and I know that this book is not going to help me personally or physically in any way. Still, I just went forward and read it because I trust this author very much, and the book is the PCOD-Thyroid book by Rujuta Diwekar, in which the author talks about the issues that are faced by women as well as some hormone imbalances or hormone problems caused by the thyroid gland. I know that this is not going to physically help me in any way, yet I went forward and read this because just like every other person in the world, I have a lot of women in my life who are quite dear to me. I just wanted to equip myself with the knowledge, at least to some extent, of some of the issues that are faced by the people in my life, and if I could provide any solutions or at least serve as a source of knowledge or direction for some problems faced by them, I want to at least help them in some way, and I also educate myself more. So I just went forward and picked this book up. I think I purchased this last year during a used book sale in the Chennai book fair. It's a used book, you can see, right? It is even torn here, but the book was just amazing. I had no idea about any of these things before I went forward and read this book. I just knew the basics alone, but after reading this only, I was able to unearth a lot of knowledge for myself. Just like any other book by Rujuta Diwekar, this one is also very simple to read and inculcate in life. I found it very useful and went forward and rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next we have a YA romance book, and I should say that I quite enjoyed this a lot, but for some reasons I was not able to give it 5 stars. It was just a 4-star read for me. I'm saying that in advance itself because I've read 2 other books by this author and they were both really high in the charts for me. So the book is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston, which is the first YA book of the author if I'm not wrong, and I've not read their latest release Alone yet. So in this book we follow our main character Chloe, not Shara Wheeler, and what happens in the beginning of the book is Shara Wheeler, who's kind of the mystery protagonist of the book, has kissed Chloe, a guy named Rory who's Shara's neighbor and Shara's own boyfriend Smith, and she has just disappeared out of there into thin air, and she has left clues and cards for all 3 of them to go forward and find her in some way. We just go forward and try to find where Shara is and why she ended up kissing all these 3 people and what's all the reason behind that. It felt more like a John Green book to me, especially it reminded me more of Paper Towns, which is the only John Green book which I did not like. But here I can say that it was really well done by the author because they have used a lot of things that they use in their other books also, and they have done it well here. Only the mystery aspect of the book was not satisfying for me, and that's why I brought down the rating by 1 star. The main premise of the series is that all these 3 characters are going to the same high school, and it is a Christian high school, the city where this hugely queerphobic, so that plays a huge role inside the story. As we can see, the person who has gone missing here, Shara Wheeler, has kissed not just her boyfriend but also another guy and another girl. There's so much done inside this book which is really nice, and I love Casey McQuiston's writing very much because it is so solid, silky and flows amazingly well. If you're a beginner and if you want to try some nice, fast-paced, funny, at the same time inclusive book which addresses a lot of social issues, you can definitely go forward and try this one. The next one is a non-fiction classic, and I should say that this was quite superficial for me because I was not able to get a lot of stuff out of this book, and it is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and I think this is the second time I tried reading this book. I should say that it did not disappoint me, but at the same time I did not get a lot of stuff out of it also. I think the main reason for it is not the book but myself, because there are certain books which you'll be able to understand and imbibe in a lot more only after you reach certain things in life, right? I think I have not come to that stage yet in my life, and that's the reason why I was not able to enjoy this and take away a lot of lessons from it despite reading it. It's quite a short book, but it is very difficult to read also because it's a classic and it's written in a very intentionally confusing language if you ask me. The font is big, but it will take a lot of time to read for sure. One of the main reasons why I went forward and read this, and I've been wanting to read this for a long time, is because Robin Sharma has talked about this book in specific in many of his other books, and he has also said that this is one book he goes back and rereads in order to understand more stuff about himself and the way in which the world is working around him, and to find the place just for us within ourselves. I will be rereading this sometime in the future, but not anytime soon. So for now, I've rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Before getting into the next book, if you see my hair moving continuously honestly. Please bear with me because I just watched it today and it is very soft. It's not standing up for me. So the next book is probably the best book that I read in May, and it is also the first book inside an adult fantasy trilogy, which is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book inside the Broken Earth trilogy. I read the first and second books in May, and I wanted to finish the series in May itself, but after reading the second book, I think I wanted to take some time off because I want this world to settle in and soak in into my brain, because this is something which is very, very masterfully done. So, in the 5th season, we follow the story of 3 people narrated from 3 different points of view happening inside the same world. And this series actually happens in this version of Earth called the Stillness, where there is a lot of seismic activities happening continuously, because of which the Earth has a lot of quakes. It keeps on destroying itself and the inhabitants of it just out of nowhere continuously. And there are these periods which are happening inside the world called the 5th seasons. And during each and every 5th season, it is almost like everything on Earth just shambles away, and it starts from the scratch from zero. We are at that tipping point where the 5th season is about to start in book 1, and we follow the story of 3 different people happening in this world in the stillness during this time. One of these 3 people is a woman who has just lost her child. The second one is a person who has the magic inside this world, and she is put into this place called the fulcrum. And the third character is a person who is able to wield this magic inside the world because she is so much trained well. So the people who can access the magic that is related to the earth in this world are called the origins. Why we get this story narrated from 3 different points of view, and why are these 3 people very important to the story, and how their stories are going to converge towards the ending of the book is what we see here. It is really, really well written. It might feel like not much has happened towards the end of the book, but the journey that the author takes you through while you're reading the story is just amazing. The world building is so different from anything that I've seen before, and it is something which you'll not be able to drop down at all, because the author's writing is just gorgeous. There are some people who write beautifully, at the same time very accessible to read, right? N.K. Jemisin's writing is like that. No wonder she just went forward and won 3 Hugo Awards for the series consecutively in 3 years. This was such a solid read for me, and I ended up rating this one 4.75 out of 5 stars. Next, we have the 5th book inside an epic fantasy YA series, and this is also one of the most popular YA series out there. I like the previous books inside the series, except the 3rd book, which was the book before this one. That's why I had to take such a long break. I think it's been 8 months since I read book 3, and I was not able to continue on with the series last year. And I'm talking about none other than the Throne of Glass series, and this book is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. We have 3 more books inside the series which I'm yet to read, and I'm pretty sure that I'll be finishing them up in the next 3 months or so. Heir of Fire was kind of a disappointing book for me because I did not like most of the things that were happening inside that book, and there is this particular chunk of the story which deals with this clan of witches, and that felt very boring to me in that book. We have the same kind of things going on here also, but each and every part of the story was very, very interesting. The thing that was going on with our main character Selena, the new characters who have gotten added to the story, the 2 other main characters of the story who are Dorian and Chaos, and the witch character whom I talked about from book 3, all of their storylines was really, really amazingly well done. I just enjoyed each and every chapter of this book so much, because even though it's huge, it just moves really, really well. It felt like a pre-climax to a series, even though we have 3 books, if I'm not wrong, left to be read. The next 3 books are actually Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. All 3 of them are huge, huge books. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to read more than 1 book per month when it comes to those 3 books, because if one of those end up not being good, it'll just make me finish reading the series even more late. I don't want that to happen, because I've enjoyed this book very, very much. So yeah, this was very, very fun to read, and I went forward and rated this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, we have the second book inside the Broken Earth trilogy, which is The Obelisk Gate. I can say that this second book was not as good as the first book for me. The writing is still the same. The book is a bit shorter compared to book 1, but it moves a little slower compared to book 1. We see why those 3 points of view have converged towards the end of book 1, and from there the story continues. We also get another different character whose story is also narrated in book 2, and her story is just as equally good as the other 3 characters whom we saw in book 1. How all of these things come together and what is happening towards the end of this book is really, really nice. The world just expands a lot more. We get to learn much more about the magic, the characters, their backstories, the backstory of this whole world itself, and whether the 5th season will be good or not for the people who are living here, and so many other such things. I'm planning to finish reading the last book, which is the Stone Sky inside the series, in the first week of June itself. I hope that happens. This was again a very solid read for me, and I went forward and rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, we have another non-fiction book, and this is one book which is a sequel to another book, but you need not have read that book in order to read this one. I'd say go for forward and straight away dive into this book. You need not read book 1 if you ask me, because most of what is discussed in book 1 is present in this one also, and it is Manifest Dive Deeper by Roxie Nafousi, which is the sequel or companion book to the first book, which is Manifest. I already have a detailed review for that book. I think it's a summary video in the channel. I'll try to link it down in the description. You can go forward and check it out if you are interested. Personally, I'd say that you need not read that book in order to read this one, because there's a lot of stuff from book 1 which has been repeated here, and there are so many things which are also elaborated on here. That's why I have a lot of tabs inside. And this one is more like a workbook, and the first book is more like a textbook. You can go forward, read it, and learn a lot of stuff from there. But here you have to interact with the text, because the author has so many exercises inside this book which are really, really good if you ask me. You cannot go forward and avoid anything that you find about yourself after you finish reading this book, because he has been very intentional in crafting all those exercises. Only complaint which I have about this book is there need not have been that many repetition from book 1 here, because people who have read book 1 need not spend more money on this just in order to see the same stuff being repeated here also. She could have cut all those down and then gone forward and just elaborated the things that she had not said in book 1 here. She failed to do that, and it was quite disappointing for me. So I went forward and rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next we have a middle grade book, which is Astra, The Quest for Star Song by Arnav and Aditya Mukherjee. This was my book club pick for the month of May, and for June we are reading Vanara by Neel Patel. So if you want to read it with me, you can read it anytime during the month, and you'll be getting a review from me either in June or in the beginning of July. So this one is a middle grade fantasy book, and it is totally based on Indian culture and Indian mythology alone. Here we follow our main character Varkan, who's 11-12 years old, and he's the prince of the small kingdom called Ashmaka. And this story happens sometime during the Ramayana, especially during the period which Ram, Sita and Lakshman are in the Dandakaranya forest. And the background of the story is that Varkan has been imprisoned, or kind of, been kept under house arrest by his uncle, because his father has died and his mother has kind of gone mad. Because of this, until he comes of age, his uncle has decided to take his place as king regent, and he's the one who's taking care of the kingdom right now. Out of nowhere, one day, Varkan is released from his house arrest, and from that, he understands that he has to do something in order to save his kingdom simply. And from there, his quest starts. What all happens, what is this Astra that they are talking about, who's actually trying to attack them, is all shown here. Even though this happens during the time of the Ramayana, there is not a lot of that mythology which actually affects the story in any way. So that was quite fresh to read, and it's also a very easy, fun, breezy and low stakes fantasy to read. So if you want something which is just a good breath of fresh air, you can definitely go forward and try reading this one. Don't expect much from it, because it's a middle grade book. It is written in mind with children as an audience. It was fun for me, and I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next we have a short story collection, and it is If You See Me, Don't Say Hi by Neel Patel, which is a collection of 10 short stories written by this author, who's also Indian American, and all of the main characters whom we see here and the stories that are happening here are happening to Indian American people. I should say that the writing of the author was nice. It was bingeable. I was not able to put down the book at all, but not even one of these 11 short stories are happy or hopeful in any way. They are all very sad. There is this continuous flavor of sadness and just wanting to cry that has been repeated in each and every story. That's not a negative thing though, because I think that's the kind of mood that the author wants the collection to have. If that's the case, then I should say that this book was really, really good to read. But as a whole, it did not leave a good taste in my mouth after I finished reading it. So, I not recommend this to everyone. The stories are also not so sad that you'll not be able to, recover from them easily also. They are quite sad, but these are sadnesses that we see and have seen in so many different kinds of media all through the years. The only thing which makes it different here is the author's writing and the way in which he tries to present the story, and from the point of view from which he tries to narrate the story also. I think I was able to finish reading this in like a couple of days or so, because each and every short story just goes on for like 20-30 pages, and you can just read through them very, very fast. Yeah, the book is just over 200 pages long, so it will not take that much long to read. I expected this collection to be a collection of short stories dealing with introverts or people like that because of the title, but obviously it's not so. It was nice, and I went forward and rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Next we have the sequel to a contemporary adult Indian romance series, and it is The Homecoming by Preeti Shenoy. And I'm saying a series because after I read the first book, I knew that there was going to be a second book, and it got released just a few weeks after I finished reading the first book. And this is actually the sequel to A Place Called Home by the same author. And if you've not known me before, I'm a huge fan of Preeti Shenoy, and this is the last book that has been published by her. And with this, I have finished reading everything that Preeti Shenoy has published as short stories and novels and non-fiction books out into the world. I'll be making a specific video just about Preeti Shenoy books really soon, so do watch out for it if you're interested in it. Since this is the direct sequel to the first book, I cannot talk much about this, but I can say the premise of the story from the first book, in which we follow our main character Alka, and she's the daughter of this housemaid, and both of them are not that greatly treated by their employer, but they are sticking there because Alka is able to go to the same school as the daughter of that employer, and from there her life just picks up in some way because Alka is quite brilliant. What all has happened in Alka's life during that time, what happens to her by the end of book 1, that this sequel is required, and what all happens here is totally worth reading. It's quite a complicated story, and if you like Indian drama without actually the unnecessary drama inside it, this is definitely a great series to read. And even if you're a coffee lover, you should definitely read both of these books because it has all the vibes that coffee needs. Trust me, especially this book, it was just out of the world in terms of the writing and the ambience. There are certain things which I don't like that happen in this one as well as book 1, and I also think that's the only reason this story is able to continue on also. It's not immature, it's not mature, it's somewhere in between, it's quite realistic. So as a whole, this was very fun to read and just as hopeful and heartwarming, so I went forward and rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Next we have a fantasy book by one of my favorite authors, and it is Lips Touch 3 Times by Laini Taylor. I actually thought that this is a full-length novel, but no, it is a short story collection. It has 3 short stories, and each and every short story ends with a kiss. Hence, we have Lips Touch 3 Times. So in this book, the author has written 3 short stories, which are all fantastical, and each of them happens in different setups. One happens in the current time in a very rural area of America, if I'm not wrong. The second story happens in colonial India and in the dark world, to be even more specific, in hell. And the third short story happens in London partly, and a huge other part of the story happens in this fairy realm, which is very parallel to that of ours. Who are the people involved in these stories? Why do they end up kissing each other? Why is the kiss very important in order to, end these stories well or not well, is all that we see here. The writing of Laini Taylor, I can say in this one, is not as flowery and as purple as it was in her Strange the Timor duology. And if I'm not wrong, this was published way before that one. So that may also be the case. It is not totally high fantasy, but the darkness that each and every story carries is very palpable. You'll be able to feel the darkness in your bones while you're reading the stories because her writing is that powerful. It is really delicate, at the same time, so lush and beautiful. She's able to show the real world with a lot of different flavors added to it, and makes it her own to experience. If you've not read Laini Taylor ever before, I'd suggest you to start reading her books with this one. It's quite a short book. It's just over 200 pages long. Yeah, it's 230 pages long. It will not take more than a couple of days for you to finish reading this. Just to get a taste of her writing as well as her prose, I'd suggest you to go forward and try reading this one. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars again. Now moving on to the audiobooks. I have 9 audiobooks to talk about, and of these 3 are different books and the 6 together belong to a single series. I'll talk about the 3 individual books first and then I'll talk about the series. And all of these 9 audiobooks are Indian books, and all of them are available to listen to free if you have an Audible Plus account running. They are all available in the Audible Plus catalog, so definitely go forward and try it. So the first of these one is a romance short novel, I think, and it is Happily Never After by Sudeep Nagarkar. I have not read any book by this author before, but this was very simple to read. It's such a beginner friendly book, and if you're someone who has not read any books at all before, you can definitely go forward and try reading this. It's not spicy, it's not unnecessary at all. It's a very basic story where we follow our main character, who's this young woman who's working. Her hometown is Bhopal and she's working in Pune. She's not that happy with her job and she's also sadly single right now. She finds this guy whom she likes, but she's not able to get him. After he breaks her heart, she goes forward and finds her life and makes a career for herself after quitting her job in Bhopal along with her family. After some time, she also gets to meet the guy, and what all happens in their lives is maturely shown in this book, if you ask me. It's not bad, it's not so great either. It's a nice feel-good story which I think needs to be told more of, because we don't see as many stories like this one which are less in sadness but more in hope and more with opportunities that are being written by authors nowadays. For that reason itself, I like this very much and I want to read more from this author. I also have another book by him with me, which is She Friendzone My Love. I think I'll be reading it pretty soon. Let's just wait and see. This one was a solid read, so I went forward and rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Next we have the worst book that I've read in May, or I can even say 2025 so far, and it is Two States by Chetan Bhagath. Everyone knows about this book. It's the author's own love story. He has said that and he has written this book. I don't know why. The horrible representation of Tamil culture in this one just pissed me off so hard. The story in itself was okay. It's not great. It's not good. It's okay. It's very okay. Very super basic. The writing of the author is not bad. Definitely not good. Again, it's something that you can read and toss away. I don't think anyone should write their love story like this and publish it into the world. It's just my opinion. If you like the book, good for you. I remember I did watch the movie when it was released all those years back when I was in school. I liked the movie back then because it was sexy. The book tries to be sexy so hard, but it just doesn't work out at all. It was just bad if you ask me. I did not like how Tamil people were shown in this book, and if that's the way he sees his wife, whom he says is Tamil as per the story, I feel so bad for her. Before this, I also tried listening to another Chetan Bhagath book, which is One Indian Girl. Even in that, I did not like the writing style at all. The main character was just so, unnecessarily blunt and boring. So I just DNF'd that book like 2-3 months back. I have not talked about it in the channel. But after reading this book, I can see that there's a huge gap between the publishing of both these books, but I don't see much development in that book. I just have my mind to read like 1 or 2 more of his books in fiction, one of which is 3 Mistakes of My Life, just because of the movie adaptation again. Apart from that, I don't have any interest in reading any of his fiction books because I don't think they are for me. But I am interested in reading his non-fiction books. Let's wait and see if it's going to happen or not. But this one was very bad. Please don't read this. I think the movie makes a much better job of showing the story, even though the story is not so good. So yeah, this was not that good, and I went forward and rated it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Highly don't recommend reading it. Spend your time reading some other book which is good. Even the first book which I talked about, which is Happily Never After, is like 50 times better than this one. The next one is actually the first book inside an Indian thriller series, and I am interested in continuing on with the series because I did like book 1, which is Razor Sharp by Ashwin Sanghi. This is the first book inside the Kutta Kadam series, and the first book is Razor Sharp, as I said now. We follow this police officer who's in suspension called Kadam inside the story, and he's going to go forward and find a serial killer in Mumbai because there have been multiple killings done by this particular person in different parts of the city, and there's no connection between any of these killings so far. And I think only after like the second killing or so, the suspended police officer gets into action here because of one of his friends inside the department. What all they find here is what we follow inside this book. It is an adult book, so it's not something that I'd suggest for anyone who's under 18 to read. If you're 18 and above, only go forward and read this book, but it is a really well written thriller book. I was able to predict the pattern that the killer was following just after like 2 or 3 killings itself, but the author took a lot of time until the end of the story to show us that this is what is happening, and I was feeling very proud of myself for having identified it. It is also the last audiobook which I finished listening to in May. It was really fun to read. Fun in the sense of the experience, okay? As a thriller book, it was fun to read. It's not fun as a story. It is quite dark and quite violent and gory also. I did like it very much, and after reading this book and so many other books by Ashwin Sanghi, which I'll be talking about in just a minute, I can say that I have become a fan of this author because I do like his works very much, especially if the series is going to move on in this way. I'm pretty sure that I'll be continuing on with it. I also tried to get a physical copy of this because I think I want to collect the series. Let's wait and see. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars again. Now talking about the series which I read or listened to in May, it is the Bharath series by Ashwin Sanghi, which is a collection of 6 political thriller books if I'm not wrong. There are like so many different genres which are blended into each and every one of these books. Thriller is definitely one of them, mystery is one, literary fiction is one, mythology is one, science fiction is one. All of these genres are just blended together in each and every one of these 6 books. It actually has 7 books, but I've read one of the 7 books already in 2020 itself. I had a physical copy of it, and then I went forward and unfolded it because it's not that the book is bad. I know that I'll not be rereading it, so that's just why I went forward and unfolded it. There's nothing wrong about the book. I also have a dedicated review for it. So in this series, the first book is The Rosable Line, in which we see the story of Jesus. Okay, we have the story of Jesus, and we have this church pastor right now, and he's having visions. His aunt, if I'm not wrong, is past life regression therapist, and she tries to help him with the visions that he's having. The visions that he has and the life that Jesus lived are paralleling each other during that time and in the present. And the main focus that we have on the story is that Jesus did not die when he was crucified. He was just saved, and what all happened that has been kind of a plan. It does not criticize the religion in any way. It's just like a parallel reality that the author has tried imagining, and it is really well written. It's nail-bitingly good. I kept on guessing what was happening here and there because I'm not that well aware about Christian mythology, but after reading this one, I was very fascinated by the way in which the author has moved the story forward. So if you're a thriller junkie and if you have not read the Bharath series by Ashwin Sanghi, you definitely need to try reading it because it's just awesome. So I rated this first book 4 stars. The second book is Chanakya Stand, and one of the great thing about the series is all the 7 books inside the series are companion novels. You need not read them in any particular order. You can read any book before anything. You can read anything after anything. It's not going to mess up any book in any way for you. All of them stand alone, but all of them have this common thread of a concept going on. So in Chanakya Stand, we see the story of Chanakya, who's one of the greatest political masterminds of our Indian history, as well as another man who's kind of a reincarnation of Chanakya in the modern world right now, and it uses a lot of real Indian politics during the 70s, 80s and 90s inside the story until 2010. How Chanakya's story unfolded in the past during the Mauryan Empire, and how this person who's kind of the reincarnation of Chanakya right now in the modern Indian history are both parallelly shown to us. The Rosable line as well as this one have stories that are happening in the past as well as present. That is the past stories which we all know, and the present story which the author is trying to reenact using those characters as different incarnations here is just amazing. It is basically like 30% of the book has the real historical or mythological story, and the rest 70% deals with the real plot of the novel that we are dealing with right now, and it is really well done. Especially the character of Chanakya in the past as well as now is extremely well done by the author in book 2. I rated this one also 4 stars. Book 3 is the Krishna Key. In this one we see the story of the Mahabharata, but not just during the Mahabharata, but from the birth of Krishna until his death, the story of Dwarka, and in the present we see the 10th avatar of Vishnu, who's a man calling himself Kalki, and what all he's trying to do by calling himself Kalki and trying to bring justice to the world. At the same time, people are also trying to discover Dwarka, and it is just mind-bogglingly awesome. I enjoyed this book more than any of the other 5 books inside the series. It's not like any of the books are bad, okay, but this one was written in another level if you ask me. I enjoyed each and every page and word of it. Even Krishna's story was done in such an amazing, beautiful way by the author here. I was not able to put it down at all. For me personally, this is the best of the 7 books inside the series, and I rated this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Book 4, if I'm not wrong, is the longest of all the books inside the series, which is the Sialkot Saga. Here we follow the story of 2 people. One is a businessman and the other is a fraud. One of these 2 is a Hindu and the other one is a Muslim. They both are brought up in very different circumstances. They both rise in the society in different ways, and how their lives are going on and what is the connection between them is revealed towards the end of the story. The way in which he shows both of these stories, how they intermingle and distract from each other continuously is just amazing. I did not know that the series was this amazing, guys. Okay, if I had known it before, I would have bought the physical books and then read them far back when I was very much into thriller. After reading the series, I want to read more thrillers again because I enjoyed it very much. This is a huge book, okay? It will take quite a long time for you to finish reading, but every page of it will be worth it. Just keep in mind that all the books inside the series are adult books. They are very dark, they are very violent, they are very gory, they have a lot of trigger warnings. Do look them up before you're going to read it, but it's definitely completely worth it. I rated this one also 4 out of 5 stars. Book 5, if I'm not wrong, is Keepers of the Kala Chakra. I have a dedicated review for it already. I'll link it down in the description if you can check it out if you're interested. Then we have the 6th book, which is The Magicians of Maas. This one and the last book were a little bit dragging for me. So in this one we see the mythology of Zoroastrianism and people trying to revive it and know more of its history in the present. They are shown along with a terrorist operation going on parallelly. Okay, the league of these books are very different. Okay, I have not seen any Indian author write fiction this good. If Preeti Shenoy writes real life fiction in a way, this guy writes like world class fiction for Indian readers and in an Indian way on some other level. I want to read all of his books, okay? I'm just obsessed with them right now. So that's the basic plot, okay? Zoroastrianism, its mythology, its history, and how the people have been treated across generations and decades and centuries inside the religion by people of other religions, especially from Islamic invasions. This one was a 3.5 star read for me. And finally we have The Vault of Vishnu. If I'm not wrong, this one comes like in number 6 or 7. I don't know properly. I read it as the last book. So in this one we see 2 stories again. One is in the present, happening in the Indian army, and the other one is one with a Chinese monk happening in China as well as India, and how the Chinese monk comes to different parts of India, even Tamil Nadu, and learns a lot of stuff. Again, it's really masterfully written. Very short book, but you'll not be able to put it down at all. You'll just finish reading it in 1 or 2 sittings max. I rated this one also 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you're someone who likes thriller series, if you're someone who craves Indian thrillers or the Indian flavor of thrillers, if you're someone who likes to learn a lot of things while reading fiction books, this is definitely one series you cannot miss. I'll try to make a separate dedicated review for this series if possible, but I'm not sure though. That's why I've taken this much time to talk about it in the wrap up itself. So yeah, definitely one series you cannot miss. Do go forward, try it. I'm 200% sure that you will not be disappointed, and you'll also end up learning a lot of stuff after finishing the series. So yes guys, those are all the 20 books which I managed to finish reading in May. I know that 20 books sounds like a lot, but trust me, while I was reading the books, I did not feel that I was reading that many, because most of the books which I read in May were amazing. Especially this series, the Bharath series, which I talked about just a few seconds back, was on another level. I want to read series like this. I want to read books like this. Especially I want to read Indian books like this. And if I'm not wrong, this is the first month in which I've read these many Indian books back to back continuously. I'm going to continue doing that for even more months in the future also, and I am sure that it's going to be just as hugely beneficial for me as well as people who are looking for Indian book recommendations from me. Don't forget to let me know your May wrap up in the comments below, and if you have read any of the books that I've talked about in the video, please do let me know your opinions of them in the comments. We can discuss further. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.